It looks like Zionists have found their new boogeyman as they now claim that Qatar has more influence over U.S. policy than Israel. Recently, James Murray went on Joe Rogan and went on a tirade about how Qatar is pouring billions into the U.S. education system and billions into D.C. in order to control U.S. policy.
Qatar pours hundreds of millions of dollars into this country, billions indeed, and tries to change policy in this country. And nobody's trying to overthrow Qatar. Nobody's trying to overthrow the emir or his family. And they've been poisoning American universities, American institutions, buying up American politicians. They pour billions into this country. There are lots of people.
But I wasn't saying if anyone.
And the most obvious one is Qatar, which just pours money into DC and into elite institutions and universities in this country. And I don't find from one week to the next anyone who's particularly riled up about it.
Well, so they've been, so they're pouring money into D.C. Mm-hmm. And so do you think that they are influencing U.S. policy through doing that?
I think they're trying to, yeah.
Maybe they are trying to.
I don't know. They're definitely succeeding with the universities and others.
Basically insinuating that anyone who complains about AIPAC and their influence on U.S. politicians should be just as upset about Qatar and their influence over U.S. politicians. Even Tim Pool jumped on the bandwagon claiming that Qatar is the primary actor behind the rise of quote-unquote anti-Semitic content online. Like deadass Tim Pool asked Bibi Netanyahu if he believes there's a Qatari op to manipulate social media algorithms to make anti-Semitic and anti-Israel episodes appear to receive an outsized number of views online. And I've been hearing this argument more and more lately, and the people who are making it, I don't think they understand how ridiculous their logic is and how self-defeating this fake concern about Qatari influence in the U.S. government actually is. Let's break it down. So between 2017 and 2022, Qatar gave in total $70 million to the United States. Now, that's through its affiliates, both directly and indirect lobby. AIPAC, on the other hand, in one election cycle in 2024, spent $90 million influencing political outcomes in the United States. Now, what has that $70 million over the course of 5 years gotten Qatar? Less than $200,000 a year in U.S. aid to the country. Now, what is AIPAC's money bought them? $40 billion in just military aid between 2020 and 2024 to Israel. And as an added bonus included in the package, whenever Prime Minister Netanyahu visits the country, the president pulls out his chair just to remind the world who he really works for. Now, the insinuation that Qatar donates money and therefore we should have a problem with it is that Qatar is donating money and that money is being spent in a way that is against U.S. interests. Except for dumbasses don't realize we have a whole ass U.S. military base there, and a lot of our military operations, whether it be Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and others, are launched out of Qatar. It seems like Doug Murray, Tim Pool, and the like have actually forgotten Qatar has been a long-time ally of the United States, and truthfully speaking, a long-time puppet. And one could argue the money that they do donate to U.S. politicians is basically protection, because they get a few weapons, they make sure that their energy is protected rather than taken by Western interests, and nobody bothers them. So even bringing up that point is ridiculous, but it's more ridiculous because you feel as if spending that kind of money on U.S. politicians creates a level of influence that could potentially inspire those donating and those receiving those donations to act against the interests of the United States. Now, what would that look like, perhaps? It might look like spending $1 billion in 3 weeks to launch an offensive against the Houthis with absolutely zero results. It might look like overthrowing Muammar Gaddafi in Libya and bringing back slavery to Africa. It might look like going to war with Iraq, not once, but a couple times. It might look like funding a genocide. It might look like the country that is giving you millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars every election cycle, killing your citizens and then you pretending like it didn't happen. When in any other situation, that would be enough for you to start a war with them. But Tim Pool thinks Qatar is so influential and so sinister that when the story broke about that private meeting that Tim had with Bibi Netanyahu, he claimed it was fake news and it was bots being funded by Qatar. And that's why everybody believed this lie. But he said it with absolutely no proof. And clearly no understanding about the relationship between the United States, Qatar, and Israel. Because even Bibi Netanyahu admits that Qatar is not an enemy state of Israel, bro. But dumbasses like Tim Pool and Douglas Murray think that all Arabs are alike. You can't tell one Arab country apart from the other. So they think if they're Arab, they must be anti-Semitic and they must hate Israel. Maybe it's time for y'all to accept that Israel's influence on the United States is a problem. It's okay to acknowledge it. And that y'all are grasping for straws, trying to blame Qatar and claim that they have the same amount of influence over the United States. Come on, bro. And to be perfectly clear, the majority of us have a problem with any foreign government having that much influence over our politicians. And as a matter of fact, many of us talk about it regularly, whether it be Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or any foreign lobbying group. We have a problem with it. We've made that very clear. You're the only ones who are unwilling to admit that Israel's influence over the United States is a problem. But I get it, bro. Just look at the way Qatar is influencing Meta and Facebook, or how Qatar is finagling its way into getting employees inside of OpenAI, or how Elon Musk, the CEO of X, went on a tour of Qatar with their leader to demonstrate solidarity and then announce how he was going to censor content that was viewed to be against their interests. Don't y'all see clearly all this influence that Qatar has over our social media and US politics? Maybe they got a point, guys, because remember, it was Qatar that attacked the USS Liberty in 1967. So maybe we should pay attention to just how much influence Qatar has on US politics.